Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim, and Chris. On today's Tour Catch-Up, brought to you by Babolat.
Alcaraz gains Fritz revenge for his 8th title of the season.
Sinner seals second Beijing title in style.
And Gael Monfils announces his retirement at the end of the 2026 season.
Kim, Chris, today is the 1st of October, and we are here to catch up on the week in tennis at Tennis Weekly HQ. It's a midweek recording at Tennis Weekly HQ, and that can only mean one thing. We are in the thick of the Asian swing. Sinner and Alcaraz have won in Beijing and Tokyo. We are down to the final 8 on the Beijing women's event, and the Shanghai draw is already out, and round 1 is already underway. So we're going to be looking into that in the second half. We're also going to be talking about Gael Monfils announcing his retirement for next season. Stay tuned for that, as well as Roger Federer's comments on court speed at the Laver Cup, which have caused quite a stir. This episode is brought to you by Babolat.
Babolat are celebrating their 150-year anniversary, as well as a brand new look for their signature Pure Strike racket.
The Pure Strike offers exceptional control with a unique feel on impact for hitting winning shots.
It's also the racket of choice of Cam Norrie and Dominic Thiem, and is designed for aggressive counter-strikers who want to make a bold statement on the court.
The metallic grey design, accented by red lines, has a unique intensity and performance-oriented spirit.
And to celebrate International Podcast Day, Babolat are giving one lucky listener the chance to win the new Pure Strike backpack.
To enter, head to our Instagram page, follow Babolat, as well as Tennis Weekly, and tag a friend in our competition post.
Entries close at midnight on the 6th of October, and the winner will be announced on our next episode on the 7th of October.
As well as the chance to win, Babolat are also giving Tennis Weekly listeners an exclusive 15% discount on the Pure Strike range.
Go to babolat.com and use the code TennisWeekly15. That's TennisWeekly15 to enjoy your discount today.
The offer is valid until October 7th, and the link is in the description.
But guys, we're all back. We're all back at Tennis Weekly HQ. And Kim, you are back from holiday.
I am, yeah. I was in Greece, and I don't know whether that was me chasing Djokovic or Djokovic chasing me, because
I had no luck when I was in Greece.
There as well.
Did you have any better luck?
No, but I did have a nice time by the pool, drinking Hugo's and other such delights. So
it sounds like you were very you took the mission seriously.
I did, absolutely.
So he wasn't by the pool, basically, is the only thing you can
No, he was working hard, ready to play Shanghai, which we'll be getting on to in the second half. But no, it's nice to be back. I can't believe it's October as well. Is this officially like the first day of autumn? It's feels like a new
That's
era.
just because you've been away. It's not been warm in a while, Kim.
No, perhaps. But it's very exciting. And we are honouring actually an event, I suppose, that has just passed. But it's been International Podcast Day, hasn't it, recently this week? And as a result, we've got Babolat sponsoring today's episode.
We do indeed. Very exciting. Clearly, International Podcast Day was not aware of the Asian Swing schedule because we weren't able to record on that day. But there is a discount for our listeners, and the discount is Tennis Weekly 15, and that's on all of the Pure Strike range. So, Kim, you've actually dressed as a Pure Strike racket, it would seem, with that flash of red on the graphite grey. I don't believe that's actually in the range, though, so you can't actually use it on Kim's hoodie. But it's very exciting. So if you do support us and you want to support us as well as our sponsor, do head to babolat.com. They have all sorts of different things, from bigger items like bags and rackets to shock absorbers and mini rackets that are all part of the range. And I've even bought my little nephew in the past a little racket. So something for everyone of all sizes. And thank you to Babolat for sponsoring us.
Yeah, love their range. I hope your nephew's making good use of that already,
it's
Chris.
Not great, yeah, I don't think. He's only 18 months.
All right. Well, let's have a look at what happened this week, just gone on tour and also off tour, because lot's been going on as always, and it does feel like we haven't properly caught up in, well, yeah, it's been just over a week because of the funny scheduling. But Joel, what's caught your attention this past week? I understand it might involve another sport of which, there's been quite a lot of coverage in the media recently.
Can you think what it is? Can any of our listeners think what it is? It is the Ryder Cup, because as much as I've been watching the tennis over the weekend, I've been enamored and fascinated by what's been going on in the Ryder Cup, but mainly because unexpectedly we had a bit of Roger and Rafa content. The Team Europe social media put out a video of Roger and Rafa on the golf course. We got a lovely drive as well from Rafael Nadal. And yeah, it was sort of, to me, it was like them like looking like they've entered and have embraced like their dad era. Looking very, very good, very, very trim on the golf course, I must say. And yeah, nice to see them together.
It's funny how retired tennis players just literally seem to live on the golf course. Like Andy Murray is just spending his entire week playing golf. I was reading.
Yeah, the
I'm
tennis to
surprised there
golf
wasn't
pipeline.
a separate piece of content from Andy Murray, because he also loves golf.
Yeah, I mean it is. You know, I did play a bit of crazy golf on holiday,
Did you?
channeling the Ryder Cup.
Did you
Yeah,
win?
on a resort. I did not. So
not a
but
victory for Team Europe.
I didn't have any like aggressive.
Not a victory for
fans,
Team
like,
Kim
screaming
Team Kim.
in support of me. So
It was very loud. But I was going to say, do you think that maybe we should do then the Laver Cup being golf as well? I know Carlos is playing. Casper likes to play. Maybe they should just swap it, so it's just another tribute to golf as opposed to.
If I would just say, I know the Laver Cup is trying to be like the Ryder Cup of tennis. I just love the final day when there are like 8 golf matches on at the same time and there is something always happening. And I would love, rather than this sort of sequential sort of normal process they have going on with just one court, why don't you have like 3 matches going on at once? And have some drama so you can flip between the matches, and it means like the matches change potentially as they go on. I thought that is such a compelling element of the Laver Cup. I know logistically it might be a bit difficult for Laver Cup, but I honestly think
how many
just
channels
so much
do you need to
excitement.
watch that, or like side by side you could get set up a multi-screen experience? Well, I think maybe we'll pitch that to them for London, Joel.
Yeah, definitely. Just I think it's at the O2, but yeah, just have loads of tennis courts and put loads of matches on at the same time. It just
Confuse
adds so
us,
much.
but with content.
I mean, that does sound like Wimbledon first round, to be fair. Just like tennis on at the same
Make it
time.
a Grand Slam.
So.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Talking of sports, though, I don't know if you'd class this as a sport, but the weekend just gone, Strictly Come Dancing came back on the telly in the UK. Big news. There's no tennis related individuals on this year's, but we do have some footballers and gladiators and other such individuals. But excitingly, I found out that on the Italian version of Dancing with the Stars, which is Italian strictly, Fabio Fognini is competing. And there's a image you can watch him on YouTube. He did a tango on the weekend in this sort of leather attire, and I have to see how he gets on. He scored 26 out of 50 apparently for his tango.
Were you impressed by what you saw, Kim? It's not great.
Potential. He might be someone that goes on a journey, which
he wasn't necessarily known for his footwork as a tennis player, I would say.
No, I feel like he might get the sort of the housewife vote. Do you think?
Yeah.
If they're putting him in these racy costumes from week 1.
Yes, there's a lot of leather going on. So we'll have to see how he gets on. We'll report on his progress, perhaps. But I do think it's a great post-retirement thing. I'd love to see more tennis players doing Strictly.
Or reality TV. Wasn't Muguruza on an episode of Bake Off that we quite enjoyed?
She was, and Cornet did The Traitors. So there's definite opportunities out there come retirement.
They do it, we'll cover it.
What about yourself, Chris? Any tidbits from you from the past week?
Well, I had a few things that I particularly like, but I'm going to focus on the fact that I do love the Chinese nicknames for tennis players. It's always like particularly iconic. And I thought, given the fact we're about to see a battle of the billionaire daughters, as it's always billed out to be between Jessica Pegula and Emma Navarro, I thought the nicknames that those two have are particularly great because essentially Jessica Pegula is big rich and Emma Navarro is like little rich because she's actually not because of how much they have in their bank account, but because of their age as well. So Pegula is big rich also because She's a little bit older, a little bit wiser, but I think it's quite iconic, and it just reminds me of some of the other fantastic sort of nicknames there were. I think Siniakova is nicknamed Instant Noodles because of her hair, which I also think is quite jolly. But would you rather be, the big rich or little rich,
Yeah.
Joel?
I feel like Little Rich. I was just going to say, I feel like the battle of the billionaires is taken a new direction, and is it the match to decide who is Big Rich, who is Little Rich?
Honestly, that
Who's
might be what they're
ultimate
playing
rich?
for. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, either way,
The
rich.
ultimate riches.
Yeah, those nicknames are quite fun. I don't know what your nicknames would be. Maybe Woo Woo, Joel.
Big
after the
Woo Woo.
cocktails that you
Big
like.
woo woo.
Little Hugo at the top there with Kim.
Ooh.
Oh, but fantastic. We'll see how that turns out. But let's move on now to the action that was in the last week or so. We did have the Tokyo event. Let's start there because we had Carlos Alcaraz winning that one, getting some revenge over Taylor Fritz from his Laver Cup defeat. But Alcaraz getting the job done 6-4, 6-4 to clinch his first title at Tokyo on his debut there at that event. And well, his season has just been quite fantastic, really, hasn't it, Carlos? 67 wins on tour, now 8 titles picked up this year. So just another one to add to his ever-growing trophy cabinet. He said, actually, that it's his best season so far in his whole career. Based on what you saw from him in Tokyo and I guess collectively as a season, would you agree with him, Chris?
I would agree with him. I think it's the most consistent season that we've had from him. I think particularly from the clay swing, it's almost like the absence of Jannik Sinner for quite a lot of those events really allowed him to kind of get a really good start. I think sometimes we've seen him peak a little bit later in the year, sometimes not necessarily from the off. Australia's never really a happy hunting ground for him. But since that US Open final, and well, sure, I should say since Wimbledon, I think that was the shock that he needed to really up his game. So I think actually he's just getting better and better and better in what has already been a fantastic season. And it's something that's quite surprising to me because I think we were thinking Sinner would just be dominating arguably the rankings, even if, Alcaraz is picking up some slam titles. But it seems like Alcaraz has kind of turned the tables on Sinner. Now he is almost the machine when it comes to picking up these sorts of titles.
He's really responded well, hasn't he, after losing the Wimbledon final? 3 consecutive titles now, and obviously clinching the world #1 ranking again. He's really bounced back strongly, and I do think that's the hallmark of a great champion is when you do have maybe a disappointing defeat in a slam final. You get back and you work hard and you turn things around. But in this particular final against Fritz, he did seem to have some injury woes, did Taylor Fritz, his, having some treatment on his leg a couple of times. That probably didn't help his campaign, but was there ever really a moment where you thought, oh, he's going to, get a second win over Alcaraz on the trot? Joel?
Yeah, I think it was a bit of a shame because, yeah, it felt like Fritz's movement was a little bit hampered. And, Alcaraz really towards the end of the match was going for the jugular in terms of bringing out the drop shots to kind of spectacular fashion. So, yeah, I don't think it was necessarily as equal footing as perhaps it was in the Laver Cup. So, yes, Alcaraz did get his revenge, but I certainly think he got a helping hand there. And perhaps his biggest test of the week, surprisingly, was against Casper Ruud in the semi-finals, because we haven't spoken about Casper Ruud for quite a while, but I was very impressed with the form he showed against Alcaraz. I mean, going a set up, I was kind of wondering, is Ruud back? I mean, it was ended in a tight 3-setter. So, a good kind of performance, I guess, from Taylor Fritz. But I'm more interested with if a possible Ruud resurgence in Asia.
A resurgence, perhaps. We'll have to see. But yeah, no, nice for him to be back up there, semi-finals of a ATP 500. And, up to that point, Carlos had been kind of coming through quite comfortably in straights. So bit of a challenge for him. On the other side of the draw, we had Jenson Brooksby reaching the semi-finals as well. And he's had quite a remarkable season as well. rising, way up the rankings after kind of starting the year at such a low ranking. Obviously, he had the drugs ban, didn't he, for missing kind of many tests. So yeah, good that he's kind of got to that stage, but ultimately coming up short against Taylor Fritz. Alcaraz, though, just going back to him, he has actually pulled out of Shanghai, the Masters that's kicking off at the moment, stating that he's just needs to rest and recover. He's got some physical issues, so pulling out of obviously the Masters event. That might mean Sinner, if he goes on to win the title, kind of edges that gap much closer to the world #1 ranking again. But obviously Carlos Alcaraz, deciding to balance his season out a bit more. These are mandatory events, the Masters, and he has spoken out that there's just too many of these on the ATP tour. So I guess he's just trying to juggle what he feels best for his season, doesn't he, with his current, physical state. But yeah, any thoughts on kind of those comments and the fact that he's not going to be in Shanghai, sadly?
Well, it was quite rapid, the announcement. It was almost just in the same news cycle, wins and then pulls out. But ultimately, he did have an injury that he picked up on his ankle, and it was a bit of a worrying one in that first round against Baez. So when you said kind of equal footing, Joel, I thought, well, I mean, it was at equal footing. I think they were both maybe on one
both
foot.
Injured.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe he was able to manage the injury a bit better. But I mean, clearly he probably has aspirations of winning the end of season finals. That will be a big goal. That's something that Rafa was never able to do as well. That's what the greats are looking for at this sort of time in the season.
Don't remind me, Chris.
Sorry.
Don't remind me. It's a sore point.
Trigger warning
Rafa
for Rafa fans. I should not have brought that up. But, he'll be looking to try and do something there. And if you do play back-to-back, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have the best chance of doing that. And this is the part of the season where if you've been playing a lot of tennis, you do start to pick up these niggling injuries. And we do see reduced fields. So a shame he won't be there, but also quite a unique week where he didn't have to play Sinner in the final. And we probably won't get a Sinner Alcaraz final given the fact that he's not in Shanghai.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, they've got to do what they've got to do, haven't they? And talking of Jannik Sinner, he has won the Beijing Open with a victory over Lerner Teen. Quite comfortable this was, 6-2, 6-2, and Lerner Teen being in his very first tour final. So, that's fair enough coming up against Jannik Sinner, getting some games on the board. That's, that's not a embarrassment by any means. But Sinner, his third title of the season. Did we learn anything new from this victory, or was it quite a kind of routine week from Jannik Sinner in China? Chris?
Well, I was going to say we did learn a few things as the week went on. He wasn't necessarily the perfection that we've seen sometimes. He did lose a set in the second round. He also lost a set against Alex de Minaur, which is not a very normal thing for him, given the fact he really does have a mastery of that head-to-head. I think the most Sinner performance would have been the final, where he absolutely kind of wiped the floor with Paul Lerner in that situation. He'd had a great week. I mean, he'd taken out some good opponents. He had a bit of help along the way with a lot of retirements have happened in Beijing, with Medvedev retiring as well as Musetti retiring. There have been some gifts. Also, Mensik retired as well. So it was a bit of a shame in the draw when it came to that, because it's great that he got the experience of the final, but you do want to win matches to get there. I was going to say, Joel, one thing I've got to ask you about is, Mannarino still winning some matches. He had a good win in the first round against Bublik. Are you predicting he's going to go even further? I believe he's already won a round in Shanghai.
He defeated Berrettini today.
All eyes on him?
All eyes on Mannarino, especially now with Gael Monfils.
French #1 could be up for grabs, even though no one is French #1 out of that lot. Yes.
But yeah, just one thing to add on Jannik Sinner. I think what I was impressed by this week was his serving was great, particularly his second serve in that match against Alex de Minaur. He had lots of breakpoint opportunities, did de Minaur, and Sinner was really gutsy, I think, at times on his second serve. Quite brave, I think. And that was sort of, I think, one of the aspects of his game that impressed me most across the week. And I think with Lerner Teen, it's a little bit kind of like, I think he's a really good player. I think he's in a very similar mold, actually, to an Alex de Minaur. Great on the run, very defensive. wouldn't necessarily say he has the biggest weapons. And I sort of sometimes wonder if his serve holds him back a little bit. But I think, it shows that for the majority of the players on the tour, he is a very difficult player to put away. And, a lot of talk about, some of his contemporaries, I think, about, João Fonseca and Jack Draper. I was going to ask you both, do you think Lerner Tien is a little bit underappreciated on the tour? Kim, I know you think Fonseca is overhyped. Do you think Tien is actually underhyped?
I mean, he's probably should be more hyped than Fonseca based on what he's done maybe already in his career.
For context, he's got more top 10 wins this season than everyone apart from Alcaraz and Sinner.
That's crazy, isn't it? But then, he's also the first, I think, American teenager since Andy Roddick to get, I think, multiple wins over Grand Slam champions since 2002. That's a stat that's being banded around as well, specifically, I guess, for young American hopes. But I mean, he's still so young. He's got such a good, prospects for the future. And I think, he just needs to, I guess, when it comes to those title matches, like try and edge a bit closer because he, was kind of very one-sided in the final. But I think, getting the win over Medvedev this past week was great. But there's more work that needs to be done. Obviously, very early days. Very conscious of not overhyping people because I think that's only to their detriment.
Yeah, people don't always live up to the hype, and Zverev is testament to that. He was such a great junior, and he's not necessarily kind of hitting the heights people would have expected. And I was going to say, this result of Zverev and Medvedev, Joel, did you see it coming? Because Medvedev had no form coming into this whatsoever, and then he absolutely
he's just a man on a mission.
New coach, though. New coach.
Same vendetta.
Same vendetta. This vendetta is just sort of running through, and it's amazing to me that I was kind of wondering, have we got a new Medvedev here? He's in the semi-finals. He's got an opponent who's not necessarily been there before. Could he go on and do something? And I mean, he was he was a set and 5-3 up against Tien and wasn't able to close it out. So I still feel like we saw the old Medvedev, but I thought it was interesting. He was quoted as saying, after the US Open, I'm trying to be good. So it does perhaps give a little bit of an insight in terms of what he's trying to do. But I still feel like at the same time, we did see a bit of the old Medvedev in there.
Trying to behave better. I mean, Rublev's behaving a lot better, but the results are not getting better. So maybe we shouldn't be encouraging that. If you want to be the very best, maybe you have to be fired up. But I mean, a surprising result there for sure.
Yes. Well, let's keep an eye on how Medvedev gets on. It was cramp that ultimately put paid to his hope of getting any further in this, and had really bad cramp, had to retire against Tien. But yeah, great for Tien getting to his first tour final, and Sinner clinching another victory, coming out on top yet again. So a great week for Sinner and Alcaraz all round it was. But now let's catch up on the WTA events that happened, still happening. We've got Beijing, which is ongoing. Had some slightly interesting results, I should say. We're kind of getting to the quarterfinal stage. We've had a couple of them that lineup completed, couple still to happen. And well, let's start with Iga Świątek, because she's been bageled today by Emma Navarro, and that doesn't happen very often. Normally it's Świątek giving out the bakery items. Chris, what happened in this encounter? Because the last time they played, Świątek won very comfortably over Navarro at the Australian Open, and this is kind of completely the other way around.
It was, and to be honest, it was on Świątek's racket, the fact that she did hit 70 unforced errors. Obviously, you can't take something away from an opponent who is able to beat you and keep their level more consistent. We've seen that obviously in the French Open final, that 70 unforced errors, you still have to give your opponent credit, that's for sure. But I mean, this was not the Iga Świątek that won Wimbledon, barely making a mistake. It's not the same as the player that we've seen in pretty much all tournaments that she's played. I think the last sort of one-sided final set that we've seen of this was actually at that French Open where Sabalenka really did kind of just dismantle her on her way to the final. So very unusual, not the level we're used to seeing. And you do think she's very focused on trying to get that number 1 ranking back. So I don't think this is a case that she like lost focus. I think it is a case that she just really was missing today. And I think when that happens, you have good days, you have bad days, and this probably was one of her worst days.
It's given Emma Navarro her 4th career win against a top 5 player. So she's there to clean up when players do have a bad day, is Navarro. She will actually face Jessica Pegula. Obviously, we alluded to that earlier. Big Rich against Little Rich. So sorry, we do have the quarterfinal lineup completely set. So it's Navarro and Pegula facing off soon. It's actually been a pretty good week for American players because we've also got Anisimova and Coco Gauff into the last 8 as well. So yeah, half of them are American, so it's fantastic for American players. We do also, however, have a Brit there. Sonay Kartal is in the quarterfinals. She beat Mira Andreeva today in a real close encounter. Joel, how exciting was this victory for Kartal?
Yeah, great result for Kartal. First time, biggest probably result of her career, now into the quarterfinals of a WTA 1000 event. Yeah, it was just it's just been a great story. I mean, the performance against Andreeva, I think what stood out to me was just how aggressive she was. Andreeva's an opponent who is not gonna just simply hand the match to you. And I think Kartal's mindset when she went onto the court was the right one. Whether she was going to win or lose, I think she's aware that at this level you need to play a certain way in order to beat these sorts of opponents, and having that level of aggressiveness was really pleasing. Was really pleasing to see. She's such a success story, I think, of British tennis recently, that we sort of have our eyes on Raducanu and Katie Boulter, but actually forget that Sonay Kartal is probably having maybe even the best season of all of them. A fantastic result and a favourable draw, you must say. I mean, Noskova next round, that's a very nice position to be in, I think, potentially to make a Masters semi-finals.
Yeah, I mean, Kartal had been coming through quite comfortably. She thrashed Kasatkina earlier in the week, straight sets all the way until this close battle with Andreeva. But yeah, Noskova, you have to think there's an opportunity there if she can continue the good form, and then the winner of that would play either Navarro or Pegula.
Could be a Billie Jean King Cup semi-finals rematch in the offing, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, Pegula though, arguably she shouldn't be here because Emma Raducanu almost got the job done over Jessica Pegula. Match points and then lost, was bageled in the 3rd set after losing those match points. This is like the second match in recent times where she's had match points and lost, up to a very, top player, but difficult times for Raducanu not being able to kind of get over the finish line. What does she need to do, Chris, to stop that happening, a 3rd time on the trot?
Unfortunately, it is a case that the nerves get to her. She gets tight in those moments. And we did see this actually after she did win the US Open, that she wasn't great at closing matches. She might win the first set pretty convincingly, get up in the second, but then she tended to almost kind of lose like a consistent run of matches, 7-5 in the third. It really was a case that the tighter it got, the less likely she was to win it. Clearly, she's playing tennis that could beat these champions like Krejcikova and Pegula. It's a shame she can't get that last point, but also that's what these players are so good at doing, is they make you beat them when it matters most, even if they haven't played that well during the match, because Pegula was a little bit below probably her best level. She was still able to turn it around. And I think there are positives you can take from it, but you don't want this to become like a recurring pattern, because that does give hope to anyone who plays against you that there is a chance they can come back into it no matter what situation they're in against you.
Well, yes, she's not in the quarterfinal lineup this time round. Perhaps she'll be there at some point. But we do have Gauff against Lees. We've got Anisimova, Paolini, Noskova, Kartal, and Navarro, Pegula. Who's your thoughts on for the winner? Who's coming through at the end of the week? Quick fire prediction.
I'm going to go with Anis. I'm going to go with Anisimova.
Anisimova, Joel.
Yeah.
That's
Nice.
a good pick.
Not Ava Lease.
No.
She came through Rebecca. Could be a surprise winner.
I'm thinking I'd like to back Coco Gauff, but I'm not sure I've seen necessarily the best from her. So I'm going to say I think that Paulini might take it.
Okay.
Spurred on by her Billie Jean King Cup success.
I'm going to say
Go on, say
Big Rich. I'm going to say Big Rich.
Big Rich,
AKA
okay.
JPEG.
This is the sort of tournament that Jessica Pegula does mop up at. You feel
1,000 a year, right? She loves it.
Yeah, when particularly when kind of maybe, Sabalenka's not playing, Świątek's gone out. It feels like much of a muchness, and it's sort of when Pegula, I think, does come to the fore.
Yes.
So are you changing to Big Rich?
I'm still going to back
Big Rich plane. I should say.
still think I'm going to back Anisimova. I feel like this time of year throws up kind of surprise champions, and as much as it could be Coco Gauff.
You're saying anyone can win it then, John?
Anyone
basically.
can win, but I'm going to go Anisimova.
But not Eva Lease or Sonay Kartal then, apparently, which is we'd love an upset.
Stranger things have happened, but let's take a quick break now. But do join us in the second half, where we'll be discussing Roger Federer's comments on the court speeds on tour, Gael Monfils announcing his retirement next year, and we'll be looking ahead to Shanghai, where Jannik Sinner and Sasha Zverev are the top seeds. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast. And it's time, as always, to kick off the second half with a game. Joel, over to you for a par for the courts edition.
It is indeed. And I do have a par for the courts, a short but sweet par for the courts.
Have you double checked it, Joel, this time?
I have.
How many answers are there?
There are quite a limited number of answers, actually, because I'm going to be talking to you about Shanghai champions.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, wow.
And Shanghai, as a Masters 1000 event, has only been around since 2009. And in total, there have been 7 champions of Shanghai. And I would like you to name me as many Shanghai male singles champions as possible. So because there's only 7, there's quite a few wrong answers here.
So that means that you want to go first, because then you can steal it without the other one having a chance to. Is that correct?
I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be able to produce 4 answers anyway.
Well, given how few people have won it, I think there will be some familiar names. Anyway, sorry, we should get going. Is it back and forth, Joel?
It is a back and forth edition. I'm going to throw it out to Kim. Kim, What would you like to do? Would you like to start, or would you like Chris to start?
I don't mind either way.
If you're not confident, go first, I reckon.
I'm
not confident
first,
either,
then.
but you've been like, I've got no clue.
You normally
but you
win,
go
so
first.
I'll go first. I will say Novak Djokovic. That's a fail-safe, surely.
is a correct answer. He is a 4-time champion. Could he become a 5-time champion in 2025? Who knows? But yes, he is on the list.
I believe Roger Federer has won this one more than once.
Roger Federer has won it more than once. Yeah, he's won it twice in 2017 and 2014. So that is 1 apiece. Kim, it is back to you.
Just trying to think who would have sort of excelled on this sort of surface, and
it is tough. This is tough.
Medvedev, like back in, he had that season where he was, really came of age.
Medvedev's a correct answer. Very good. 2019 champion. We didn't have any events due to the pandemic from 2020 to 2022. So he was the last champion before all of that hit us. So yes, Kim is 2-1 up. Back to Chris.
I have a rogue one that I'm 100% sure on, but I'm going to save it because I'm getting tactical, Kim, to try and bring you down. I believe there's been a British winner, I think Andy Murray's won it more than once.
It is a very happy hunting ground for Andy Murray. He's won it 3 times, including back-to-back in 2010 and 2011. So very well done, Andy Murray on the list.
What's the score? Are we level?
Kim, is back to you. It is 2 apiece. So you've got 4 of the 7 answers.
Over halfway, Kim. Bring it home.
Now.
I mean...
You like
I want
another
to say-
Russian, surely. You know, has anyone else?
Well, I was thinking of saying Rafa because out of all the Masters, I don't recall this one being one he didn't win. So I'll say Rafa.
Rafa Nadal? It's an incorrect
Oh,
answer.
no.
Kim.
I think
At
you
least
just
I
blocked
lost
it from
saying
your
the
memory.
Masters title that he
Yeah.
won.
Oh,
So I have to get one
Okay.
more. Is that correct?
So, Chris, it is over to you because we are drawing. So you need to give me a correct answer for the win.
I actually think there are 2.
We've got a really obvious one.
I think Jannik Sinner won it last year. Yeah,
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll take the
well
victory.
done. I just sped that up because I can't create suspense.
Yeah,
out of
we
that
are very
because
bad at getting the obvious answers.
Jannik Sinner is a correct answer.
And
Yeah,
I
he is the defending champion. Yeah.
I know that Hurkacz won it in 2023 because beat Rublev in
oh wow.
the final. That was my rogue one.
Very good. Yeah. 10-8 in the final set tiebreak.
And that's all I know.
Yeah. I was wondering if anyone was going to get the most difficult
Is there a
answer.
rogue one?
The
Is there a
most
rogue?
difficult answer on the
Chilich?
board.
Oh, gee, but guess 2009 this would be, or like
Chilich?
2010.
Davydenko.
It is Davydenko, Kim.
Oh,
Very good.
He was really good in 2009.
And
'cause
Kim,
he,
do you know who he beat in the final?
Rafa.
It was
Oh.
Rafa in
Oh,
straight
yeah.
sets.
Oh,
Kim,
dearie me.
she knows it all. It's just tapping into it that's the trouble.
Locked away
So
somewhere.
there you go. Those were the complete set. Davydenko, Murray, Djokovic, Federer, Medvedev, Hurkacz, and Sinner.
Well, it feels like it's been going longer than that for sure, doesn't it?
Yes, quite a stalwart on the calendar. But yes, I forgot that they wouldn't have had it during COVID. So yeah. Thank you very much, Joel. Listeners, let us know how you got on. Did you beat
Rafa fans.
both of us? Sorry, Rafa fans. That's poor knowledge on
Kim,
my part.
Rafa
there.
did get to the final twice. He lost
there
to
you go.
Federer as well in 2017.
Two
So, no.
finals should make a victory. There we go. But anyway, let's move on to the mailbag because Tom contacted us via email. So thank you very much, Tom. Tom says, "Hi gang, love the podcast. My question for you relates to Carlos Alcaraz and his comments this week that he feels there are too many mandatory events on the tour. This reminded me of something similar that Iga Świątek has said previously on the women's tour and wanted to get your opinion. Do you think there are too many mandatory events? And what do you think can be done with the schedule to make the tour more player friendly?" So just a bit of context to what Tom's saying. Świątek had said previously that she's going to have to choose some tournaments, skip some, even if they're mandatory, because she called it pretty crazy that there's all these mandatory events. Alcaraz has then agreed with Iga, just saying, for the health of the players, you're going to have to skip some mandatory tournaments. Otherwise, there's just too many. Saying that the schedule could kill us in some way. So a lot of criticism from the players here. Do you think this is warranted? Joel, coming to you first.
I think so. I think if you look at the number of events on the tour, the number of events that are 2 weeks on the tour, particularly for these top players, the fact that there are so many mandatory events with kind of Grand Slams, the Masters, not even adding kind of, team events as well, maybe playing Davis Cup or Billie Jean King Cup. I do think there are. I think the issue has been more that it needs to be called out by the players. And I actually applaud the players from kind of taking a stance on this and kind of saying that, this is becoming a bit of a joke. And, as much as the tours might want to put penalties on us, I need to prioritize, my health kind of first of all. And, it's getting a bit ridiculous, I think, with the schedule. I don't think the 2 week events are helping, and you shouldn't be having your top players withdraw from the Masters events. I think if if these events were maybe 1 week, it would feel kind of less daunting. But I mean, for Alcaraz, granted that he maybe is not feeling 100% from his efforts this week, but you want the top players at your Masters events, and they shouldn't be feeling knackered before the showpiece.
Oof.
Yeah,
I do agree on that.
Chris?
I'm gonna jump in here, Kim, because
Yeah, go
I
for
do
it.
feel quite strongly that you can't have your cake and eat it. And I think, yes, I don't agree with the fact that the Masters tournaments are as long as they are. I do think there's not much rest periods or training blocks or periods where you can get balance in your life
No.
as well. You don't have choices. And I do think for people who are as successful as they are, wanting to manage their schedule, I don't think that's too much to ask. So I agree with you on that, but I do think that some of the problems that they have with it is they could be earning a lot more money if they're playing more of these exhibitions. And Carlos is actually a little bit guilty of playing a lot of them. He has the Six King Slam coming up. He also has an event in Miami, which is headlining with Fonseca, Anisimova, and Raducanu, and another event just outside New York, which he's playing with the same lineup, but TFO's playing instead of Fonseca there. And that's just the ones that are announced already. So it's not like he's necessarily taking time off all the time. He's actually playing more events than some players who might be slightly more lowly ranked. I do think when it comes to winning a slam and wanting time off, I do think that's where sometimes there is too quick a turnaround with the Davis Cup or whatever. But I think he can't necessarily be the number one champion of this issue, given
That's
how
a good
often he
point.
plays like off the tour. Kim, I would ask you maybe the question around, do you think that the best way to do well is to skip one of those Masters, whether that's like Rome or Madrid, don't play them both, or, heading into the hard court swing, is it better to prioritize one in order to peak at the Slam?
Yeah, I mean, just on that point of the exhibitions, I suppose from Alcaraz's perspective, if it's a short-lived, fun thing, that's a lot less mental and physical
He didn't exactly try the Laver
strain.
Cup, did he?
So, so I think but I totally get your point that you should be prioritizing proper tour events. But I think what they could maybe do, can they not give them like a free pass for like one or two of the events per year, and then they can plan their schedule more
Needs to
accordingly
be a bit
around
more
that?
flexibility, doesn't there?
Yeah, because ultimately, if you're forcing people to play, they're just going to get injured, going to get tired. They're going to be more retirements. You're not going to get the best level of tennis because people aren't going to be able to compete at their highest level because they haven't had the rest period. So, maybe less is more. You're going to get better quality if people are able to turn up feeling better in themselves. So I think
Maybe
there
some
needs to
variety of
be
matchup
something
as well, right?
introduced.
Because then it's actually quite interesting seeing sometimes what happens when the top players aren't all there. Sometimes I think obviously we want the best players to be playing in all of them. But having said that, every time Alcaraz and Sinner are in the same tournament at the moment, it is an Alcaraz Sinner final, which is great. It's exciting. But I do think sometimes it is actually nice to see what else is happening on the tour. We did that period, obviously, when Sinner was out, allowed a few more players to come up potentially. But I mean, I probably would just say they don't like the 2 week Masters. And I think that's probably what this is really about.
About
Yeah.
we don't like them either very much, do we?
No, it goes on and on and on and on.
I mean,
Drags them out. Yeah.
interestingly, I mean, Chris, Qinwen Zheng is in your camp because she was
Oh, is
quoted
she?
as saying, I don't think it's too much for professional players, the calendar. The strongest players survive, and that's the rules in my head. Do you think that's a valid argument in terms of this is tennis, this is survival of the fittest, and if you can't live up to what the calendar demands, then that's on you. And players who can live up to those demands going to reap the rewards, or in this case, not pay the penalties.
I think you do want it to be a balance of like people who are physically fit, but also supremely talented, rather than just those who kind of plug away every week. I think it's quite funny that Chinwen made that comment because she's obviously been out for like 3 months injured. So I guess that's a bit different if it is a genuine sort of injury. It's probably not necessarily targeted at those who do have problems that they might need to get surgery on, or bigger problems.
Or might be going deep in the majority of tournaments that they play.
I think that's probably a really good point. If you're Alcaraz, you're playing that many more matches, and if it's mandatory for you to play them, It's not like it's mandatory for someone to go out who goes out in the first round. So I think that is a case that I would like there to be like almost like a swing where you're able to say, I'm going to skip one for this year, but you can't skip the same one 2 years in a row. Something like that would be quite a good rule, I think, on the ATP, because they're going to skip them. They are skipping them and they're fine skipping them, and they're still the top players in the world. So if you do want to make sure that they're more likely to be in attendance and you do want to keep them happy, then you have to make some allowances. So maybe I'm coming back around a little bit, Joel. I've softened.
It's a nuanced topic, isn't it? And actually, I want to skip ahead. Thanks, Tom, for your email, because I do think it's a difficult subject, and I hope we've managed to do some credit in answering it. But you mentioned how Sinner and Alcaraz are getting basically to the final of every tournament they're both in. Roger Federer has spoken about that recently, because he is prophesizing, theorizing, I don't know what the right word is, but that tournament directors are giving Alcaraz and Sinner an advantage because of the speed of the courts that are used at many events. So the fact that the courts are slower now, it's benefiting both of them, because ultimately tournament directors want a Sinner Alcaraz final. It's great for their tournament. He said it's like a safety net, because it's enabling them two to kind of come through, less likely to be upset. Do you think he's correct in his supposition there? Do you think he's got a point? Chris?
I mean, it does
You're
feel
nodding.
like that. I'm nodding because I'm actually surprised he was so candid about this, because even slightly critical about the speed of the court surface at the Laver Cup. In some of his comments that he was making, he does sort of make it seem a little bit like it is slightly more in favour of players like Sinner, which was quite interesting from the comments that he made. Obviously, he referred to both of them in those statements. I think when he said the line around, it's for the weaker player, he has to hit extra amazing shots to beat Sinner, which I think is quite interesting, because if it's very, very quick, then you can get a few cheap shots here and there. So I think there's truth to it. I think we've all known this was sort of happening. I think with the ball slowing down, the surface is slowing down, even like the physical side of it, players being that much quicker doesn't help when it comes to how long these matches go. And also the fact that you are probably a little bit more in control as to who might go deeper in the tournament. But I mean, is it a case that marketing has gone crazy in terms of the investment of wanting to get these players in for these clashes? But back in the day when he said they were playing 12 tournaments and some of them counted and you were meeting all different people, were they just not interested in trying to orchestrate this? Or do you think this is a conspiracy too far, Joel?
I think there is a point there. I think we've seen a general trend that kind of court speeds kind of have slowed. I think it's interesting. We talk a lot, I see, as fans, when we see clay courts play like a hard court, grass courts play like a clay court. And it just shows, I think, increasingly that the court surface, it doesn't matter as much, I think, as it did. And I think, again, the schedule has a part of that where, now it feels like there's too many mandatory events maybe you have to play across the year. Well, back in the day, you could sort of handpick your events and be a bit more of a specialist. You could stick to the grass, or maybe you could just kind of stick to the clay events. There might be some who maybe are able to just maybe do that just about on clay. But I do think nowadays that the surfaces are slower.
They're also more similar. That's the point that I think, really good point you've made. Literally, grass and clay playing similar is not something we ever thought we'd say before. But Iga was adamant that second week Wimbledon plays more like a clay court.
It's very kind of nuanced, but it does make me worry that, we could get these great matchups, but it feels like we're making all the tennis players play the same type of tennis. And do we want to see that? We're slowly getting rid of, serve and volley from grass court tennis. Speaking to friends about like indoor courts back in the day, they used to be lightning quick, but actually nowadays, again, they've kind of like slowed down. And I worry that it's not just about the matchups; it's the styles of tennis that are also happening. And if these courts are becoming the norm, then the next generation of tennis players, who's to say they're all not just playing, one sort of game, and that might be a worry in the sense of marketing the sport and actually showing off all the different types of ways you can compete on the court. So it's not just you have to be a technically model specimen in order to thrive.
Yeah, and these were comments that were made on, I think, the Andy Roddick podcast, and I think off the back of the Laver Cup, where Federer quoted the example of Casper Ruud being able to just return against Riley Opelka easily. We know that Opelka's serve on an indoor hard court shouldn't really be the easiest to return. So yeah, it's interesting. I do think he's certainly got a point. And is it is it good for the I had a little sneeze there. Is it good for the sport ultimately if we're getting just that variety kind of shunted out of the sport? So listeners, let us know where where your stance is on that. We'd love to know what you think. And maybe Alcaraz and Sinner will stop one day getting to the final of all these events, and we'll be missing the fact that we had this period where they were dominating. Final bit of news though before we go on to look at Shanghai. A post very, very recently from Gael Monfils on his social media that he will be retiring at the end of 2026. So we've still got over a year till it comes, but he has announced with a lot of notice that he's going to be hanging up his rackets at the end of next year. I think he'll be about 40 then, won't he? So maybe he's timing it for his new decade.
Long time in advance. I mean, listeners, let us know. This is like a year and a. It's like over a year away in theory, unless he, he might call his season, I guess, after the French Open possibly. But this is ages away.
It's quite a long time. That is true. But I think he was talking about the fact that he was going to, if there was another injury, that would be it. But maybe it's actually gone a bit too well at times this year. I think he's had a bit of a resurgence this last sort of 18 months in the fact that he was, able to get himself back inside or back very close to the top 50, having some pretty big matches at big stages. That match with Jack Draper pushing, one of the best players at the start of the year at the French Open all the way in that 4-set epic that I was lucky to watch. So maybe it's a case that he wants to actually, maybe Svitolina said to him, come on, when are you actually going to call it? Because it is definitely a case. He's been thinking about it, Kim. When you spoke to him last year in London, he did talk about how hard it was not having all those moments with his daughter. So do you think that's also part of the motivation as well, that the payback lessons when you have been doing it for so long and that you have other things in your life that are also priority?
I mean, it's a good 20 odd years of traveling the world.
A lot of running.
It's a half life.
I can't. Yeah, I mean, I'm
you
surprised
just got back
it's
from
not
Greece
come
and you're
sooner.
exhausted. Yeah,
a day in the office, just knackered.
Sees you off. Yeah,
I think it's sort of somewhat inevitable, and it's nice that I guess he's given actually so much notice because tournaments can hopefully give him some wild cards, and we can all enjoy one last time. The absolute spectacle and performance of him, and he's such an entertainer, such a flair player. He will be sorely missed, I think, for that entertainment factor. So I think giving a lot of notice actually might, give the fans a bit of a heads up, like, oh yeah, one last time, I'll make sure I prioritize going to see.
So the opposite of a Venus Williams approach, where she just pops up again and no one knows what's happening. He's really signposting it. I was going to say, do you think that this will inspire him to play even better potentially? Do you think when there's an end that we might see a little bit more of a focused schedule, but maybe one that gives him the best chance at some big matches? But I mean, especially the French Open, that's going to be, the night session is going to be absolute fire.
Oh yeah, I hope he has a good run there. It'd be great to have him going out on a bit of a high. I mean, he won Auckland at the start of this year. He's the oldest singles champion on the ATP tour since it began in the 90s. So there's still a bit of fire in him
life
yet.
in the old dog yet, as they say.
Yes,
it's kind of crazy. We might remember Gael Monfils for his longevity on the court, which is kind of funny to think about, given sadly the number of injuries I feel that have kind of dogged his career. But he has incredible drive and motivation. I think obviously on the tour with his wife, Elena, as well, definitely, I think, has probably helped prolong his career, Gem's life.
Love them.
So yeah,
Did you see the video, Joel, by the way?
Nice to see.
The video was great fun. It was a whole, we're talking about dramatic. The length of time is dramatic. So is this announcement film featuring.
I'm just hoping he can put as much effort he's put into his retirement announcement as he can on the court, because his retirement announcement literally was like a four-page chapter of a book
with a video,
acknowledgements in a book.
Yeah, he's already saying Kim, you always find it funny after I go to a tournament and say thank you to all these people. He's doing that before he's even played the tournaments. He's saying thank you. But we saw Gilles Simon was in the retirement video. Richard Gasquet was also orchestrating it. We had a golfer. It was, Svitolina was there, already doing a tribute. So imagine what the fanfare is going to be like.
They're not leaving enough left for the French Tennis Federation.
Oh, Maresmo has
the
something
year
planned.
Right? Did he mean to say 2025?
I hope it's not the birthday cake.
Oh, no.
Retirement cake.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, let's see. But yeah, we've got another year and a bit to enjoy of Gael Monfils, assuming he's fit and healthy and able to compete. Because yeah, I'm sure he'll probably streamline down his events somewhat in his final year. But let's look to sort of pastures a bit closer. Shanghai Masters is underway as we speak. Alcaraz is not playing, as we mentioned. Sinner is, Djokovic is, Zverev's there. Sinner's defending his title. Who are we going to predict is coming away with this one then? I'm
going to say it before Joel
Jannik
does.
Sinner.
It is hard, but Casper, I'm going to predict he's going to take out Shelton and Djokovic on his way to the semi-finals before he loses to Sinner.
Is this Sinner's lose? It feels like it. I find it quite funny that Mute, of all people, has been given the Alcaraz slot at the very...
Quite fitting, the two drop shot wizards that they have been in especially Alcaraz against Fritz in that final. Can he do something special, Joel, Mute? A Mute
I don't know.
Sinner
I don't
final?
know if I care, but I think certainly without Alcaraz, that top half feels
Norrie
quite
could
open.
be a big beneficiary of that.
I mean, you look at, say, Musetti, Zverev, de Minaur. I mean, I'd still potentially back de Minaur. He seems to be playing really well. Medvedev, it feels very open in that top half, but certainly from the bottom half, it's so hard to look past Jannik Sinner.
And how have you not said Jaume Munar? Because
I was just about to. He won today in his opener against Martin Fucsovics, I believe. So
good win.
Caboli is next, so had to get a mention of Munar in before
every
the end of
podcast episode. We have to.
I mean, any expectations from Novak Djokovic? It was a bit of a surprise. He, I think I said he was gonna play this because I felt like Grand Slams are over. That's really the name of the game for him now. So I was a little bit surprised he decided to play Shanghai. But are there any kind of possibilities there?
Well, might have Cilic in his opener.
He does, yeah. Bad at the Grand Slams, haven't played for many years. I didn't think he was going to play Shanghai last year. He then did play it, and then he skipped the end of season finals. So I feel like this is maybe part of the routine now, that maybe he'll do the exact same thing. Serbia do not have the chance to win the Davis Cup, and he said he's kind of only really getting out of bed for, the slams, the Geneva 250, and also the Davis Cup. So I feel like he does like playing it after the US Open, having a bit of form under his belt. It feels like a good place to see off the season potentially. But it's hard to know when we're going to see him on a court, really, until Australia after this.
Could he be at the Tour Finals?
He could go to it. I mean, he will qualify, but he was in a similar situation in previous years and he didn't play it. So I think he might play it this year. I think the best of 3 format might be a chance for him to maybe do something a little bit more, as opposed to best of 5, where he's kind of been falling short against Sinner and Alcaraz. So time will tell, and we'll see if he's able to pick up what would be his 5th Shanghai title.
It would, yeah. Well, let's see. Maybe it's all part of a longer term plan with the Australian Open start of next year.
A long warm up.
I don't know. But we'll see how it unfolds, and we'll be bringing all the roundup next week.
Indeed. But there is going to wrap up our latest tour catch-up brought to you by Babolat here at Tennis Weekly HQ. We hope you've enjoyed the ride with us. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss a moment of the Asian swing as we head into the final part of the season on the ATP and WTA tours. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all your favorite podcasting platforms out there.
And if you love what you're hearing, then be sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube.
And if you'd like to stay connected with us on social media, that's where you're able to enter our Babolat Pure Strike competition to win a backpack. Do check that out on our Instagram. We're also on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and X, and the handle for all of those is Tennis Weekly Pod. And make sure that you check out the 15% discount code. That's at babolat.com, and you can also check out our website, which is tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we'll be back next week for another tour catch up. But until then, it's goodbye from Kim.
Goodbye.
It's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Tennis Weekly.